So, in my lifetime, especially in my adult life, I've spent a lot of time striving for more. And I'm striving for more right now. And it comes from this feeling of, I know I can be more, and I want to be more, and I should be more. And it's like it's a constant anxious nag, a pressure that's as much of a push as it is a pull, in the sense that the idea of staying stagnant is terrifying. The idea of falling backwards is mortifying, but at the same time, I am also driven and excited by achievement. There's nothing more enjoyable and more exhilarating than winning, than success and reaching new levels of success. So it's kind of three dimensions that I feel this need to push forward. It's that fear of stagnation, absolute treachery associated with falling backwards, and then this pull, this desire driven behavior as well to achieve more and to become more and to have more. Okay, so I don't think every single man feels this way, but if you feel this way, where you live in this state of wanting to become more and do more and have more, then I'm speaking to the right person, and I'm sure you can relate. Now, the problem exists when you are in one of two of those phases, the earlier phases of either stagnation or falling backwards. And that's where frustration and fear and anxiety and stress and all these other things start to come into play. And I think a lot of men exist in this space for years, maybe even decades. In fact, definitely some guys will stay in this phase for multiple decades. And it's frustrating, it's tough, it's stressful, it's not a nice feeling. And it's tied to feelings of inadequacy, it's tied to low confidence, it's tied to stress, depression, all of these negative emotions and states of being. And it's baffling to me how many men, particularly, will just stay in this zone without making any real meaningful steps towards getting out of this zone and being more driven by that pull sensation. As I said, I'm driven by all three of those different fears and excitements and anxieties. But one thing I will not do is persist in that state of stagnation. And I want to really talk today about how we get out of this phase of feeling stuck when we are somebody who is driven to succeed, either through this deep ingrained desire to not be stagnant or to fall back, or that really strong, powerful pull to be propelled forward to achieve. And the biggest thing, and before you just kind of completely check out, I do want to go into some nuances here about this. But the biggest thing is you need to be really damn clear on what it is exactly you want to achieve, and you need to put some skin in the game. There needs to be some consequences, and the goal that you set needs to be big enough to actually excite you. And it needs to be big enough to actually force the changes in your day-to-day behavior that are going to result in you getting unstuck. So let's say, let's say you're earning 30K a year, and you're saying, do you know what, I'm sick and tired of being here. I can barely pay the bills. I'm stressed. I haven't got the status that I want. I'm not driving the car that I want. I can't do the events and go on the holidays and these sorts of things. I just hate being in this place financially. I want to get to 100K a year. And that's a bit of a dream. And it seems, to many people that will seem unobtainable. But I would argue that actually that goal is kind of a take it or leave it kind of goal, where you wouldn't need to create any real massive, mega meaningful changes to go from that 30 to 100. It wouldn't be life-changing changes required for you to elevate to that level of income. And so the goal needs to be much bigger, such that the only way to achieve it involves you completely revamping the way you operate in the context of making money. Now, with this in mind, there's a great book. It's available on most platforms now as an audiobook as well. It's an old one now by Grant Cardone, 10X Theory. And he talks about how you need to set a goal which is 10 times bigger than you originally planned, such that you actually take the appropriate amount of action that's going to be required to achieve a goal which is more reflective of your true potential. Basically, human nature is that we typically will always fall slightly short of the targets we set ourselves. And we either achieve the target, which was too easy and leaves us feeling unfulfilled, or we set a massive target, a 10x target, which is going to force us to level up more than we ever have done. And although we'll fall short, it's going to be significantly further than the original 1x goal. In this case, 100K versus, call it, 1 million. You really have to make some big changes in your life to make $1 million in a year through your business or in your whatever field of work you're in. And so the quickest way to get unstuck is to set a really ambitious, bold and juicy target and then reverse engineer the process. One, it's going to get you excited to actually do the work. And two, it's going to force you to completely reconsider and rebuild how you go about your daily life. Not just in terms of your actions in the workplace, but how you distribute your energy, how you think, how you make decisions, how you see the world will all have to shift in order to actually actualize that goal. And so one thing that I'm a huge proponent of, even when it comes to financial goals, you've got to find things that are going to force you to level up across the board in every facet of your life. And one thing that cannot be overlooked, and one thing that I would recommend highly to anybody out there, is to get yourself into outstanding shape. And now when you hear that, you're thinking, oh, okay. But I want you to apply that same mindset, that 10x mindset, and think about what that looks like from a physique and fitness development perspective. Hair in my mouth. And what does that actually look like? And what would that require, most importantly? So my belief is that if you were to set a goal, let's say in the time frame of 1 year, to get yourself into absolutely outstanding fitness and shape, that might be, if you're watching this right now as a, 100 kilos, a 220 pound man who needs to drop, call it, 40 pounds to be in shape. We're talking you're doing that in a year, and you're going to set that target and you're going to reverse engineer that target, and it's going to force you to completely remap how you approach your nutrition, how you approach your training, how you approach your supplementation, how you approach your sleep, your hydration. And in the process of having to adhere to these complete lifestyle shifts, it's going to force you to develop some really positive habits that will serve you across the board. Namely, your discipline is going to have to jump up a few levels. Your follow through on doing what you say you'll have to do is going to have to jump up a few levels. Your ability to operate using systems is going to have to be integrated. For you to fit this regime in, you can't be sporadic. You can't be reactive to life. You have to be organized and proactive. You have to create mechanisms in your life to make sure that you hit these targets that day after day are going to elevate you and take you closer to your goal. And so setting an amazing fitness goal sets the tone, it sets the standard, and it starts shifting not only the way you look, but it starts shifting the way you have to think in order to achieve success, 10x levels of success, that ultimate juicy goal. And of course, when you're setting that goal, just to go back a step, you really have to think about what you stand to gain. You got to think about, okay, well, when I'm, call it, 170 pounds or whatever, you've decided is the right weight for you in the right composition. What is that going to give me? How's that going to make me feel? How's it going to change the way I interact with people? What's that going to do for my energy? What's it going to do for my confidence? All of these things. And then you've got to look at the secondary effects of that. Okay, well, how does my work benefit? How do my relationships benefit? And so on and so forth, as a result of having better energy distribution, as a result of being more confident, as a result of being someone who follows through and can act from a place of discipline in a highly pragmatic way, devoid of emotional interruption. Now, at this point, you've developed some serious mental characteristics which can carry you through on completely unrelated areas. Domains like your business, for instance, will benefit hugely when you've developed these mental character traits. And so the way to get unstuck, the quickest way to get unstuck, and something that I always do whenever I set an ambitious target, whenever I want to achieve and break through a plateau in business, is I say, okay, well, what is my fitness goal? What is the juicy, big old fitness goal that's going to force me to level up across the board? Because I know that in doing so, it's going to force me to operate in a highly efficient, mechanized manner, which tests my mental fortitude to the highest extent and starts to forge this internal environment that has the highest of standards supporting it. And so when you do that, and when holding yourself to a high standard becomes your baseline, you view the world very differently. And not only that, you are received by the world very differently. People can feel in your energy, in the way you hold yourself, obviously in your appearance as well, but in the way you communicate as a result of going through a sustained period of time of transformative output, following through on your word, holding the line with the discipline. All of these things, they radiate from you. And so the world receives you differently as well. You build more trusting relationships. People can see that you are trustworthy. People can see that you have discipline, that you do follow through, and opportunities start to arise. And so in leveling up and 10xing your fitness goals, suddenly you start to believe, one, that you're capable of achieving things. You get daily evidence of you being able to follow through on the processes behind achieving big things. And you start to develop this confidence that permeates everything else that you do. And so if you are someone who is feeling stuck and you are feeling obsessed about this idea, this concept in your mind that you can do more and be more, but you do feel stuck and you do feel frustrated, set a big goal, set a huge fitness goal. And if you're a businessman, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a high performer who wants to perform even more at a higher level, then attach to that another goal and stick those two flags in the ground next to each other and draw a direct line of, okay, well, this is what I want to achieve in my fitness, and subsequently, this is what I want to achieve in my business, whether that's, reach or revenue or whatever. So hopefully that gives you some things to think about, and it's the quickest way to get unstuck is to set an ambitious target, reverse engineer the actions necessary so you're very clear on what needs to happen on a biannual basis, a monthly basis, a weekly basis, a daily basis, what those macro and micro actions are that are going to move you forwards, and then understand that that goal will require the very best of you, the most consistent and persistent version of you. And then day by day, thoughts become things. Your actions start to align. They start to forge a completely new outlook of the world, and the world will start to see you very differently as well. And you'll create a very different reality for yourself. And although you may not achieve that 10x goal, you will come very close to it, and it will be well in excess of, one, the stagnant form of you when you first started, and two, the average 1x goal that you started off with. Guys, like, subscribe, Mindset Fitness Coaching. If you want to join my group on school, my school group coaching page, you can click the link in my bio to access that. That's a really good starting point for those of you who want to develop an awesome physique and really develop a bulletproof mindset. If you want to get access to tremendous programs, training and nutrition, as well as the community and the classroom section where you can learn all about mental rewiring, training, nutrition, accountability, mindset hacks, all accessible in the school group. Phenomenal place to start. Or if you're interested in working with me directly on my one-to-one mentorship, where we build you out a phenomenal roadmap to a physique, where you are supported one-to-one, where you'll check in with me, where you and I will work closely together with a high touch point frequency to develop the physique and the lifestyle that you want, then you can also click the link in the bio and you can DM me the word titanium on my Instagram to book in a call with me, and we can chat and figure out what the next step is for you in terms of setting up a mentorship. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers, guys.